Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating 50-point strategic guide for a seriously unique role, UNESCO's Assistant Director General for Sciences. Operating right out of Paris, this position basically bridges the gap between fundamental human rights and, believe it or not, advanced theoretical physics. So if you've ever wondered how global scientific policy actually gets made, well, you're in exactly the right place.
The sheer ambition of this job is honestly just staggering. I mean, the person in this role doesn't just oversee a single lab or some narrow field of study. No, they manage the natural sciences, the social sciences, and massive hubs of global research, like the Abdus Salam Center for Theoretical Physics. That center is a Category 1 institute, meaning it's literally a foundational piece of UNESCO itself. Talk about an administrative and intellectual high-wire act.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with a colossal global mandate, move into bridging nature and society, explore the standard-setting tension, break down the machinery of implementation, look at managing risks and stakeholders, and wrap up with the long-term global impact.
Part 1. A colossal global mandate. We're starting at the absolute apex of UNESCO's sciences sector. This position, officially designated as SCS-001, acts as the ultimate scientific compass for the organization, and it operates under a master plan for the 2020s, known as the Medium-Term Strategy for 2022 to 2029, or, if you prefer bureaucratic shorthand, Document 41C/4.
The breadth of knowledge required here is absolutely breathtaking. This leader has to act as a diplomat to 194 member states while juggling wildly different disciplines. Think about it. One day they're tackling climate change and freshwater security, and the very next, they're preserving historical memory like the Silk Roads, or even standardizing anti-doping policies in global sports. It's just an immense, sprawling portfolio.
So how do you manage all that chaos? Well, the strategic guide organizes its 50 distinct operational points around exactly 10 consistent analytical dimensions. It's kind of like a giant filtering machine. Every single initiative gets run through this 10-point matrix, which covers everything from the big-picture strategic rationale all the way down to on-the-ground capacity building. Basically, it turns these lofty global goals into actionable, manageable tasks.
Part 2, bridging nature and society. See, the goal here isn't just to study the world in a vacuum, but to actually harness both natural and social knowledge together as a coherent, transformative force.
Unlike agencies that focus entirely on, say, just oceanography or just economics, this mandate forces different sciences to actually talk to each other. You simply can't solve freshwater security or disaster risk without also dealing with social inclusion. This interdisciplinary alignment is really the secret sauce here, and empowers member states to manage interconnected crises all at the same time.
And it's not just theoretical. These global networks are tied directly to physical, designated sites. We're talking about tangible places, like biosphere reserves protecting endangered ecosystems, or global geoparks driving sustainable local tourism. It takes science out of the ivory tower and puts it right into local communities where it can do the most good.
Moving on to Part 3, the standard-setting tension. This brings us to a really fascinating friction point within the mandate, the immense challenge of keeping global standards relevant.
Here is the core tension of the job. On one hand, diplomacy is just inherently slow. Developing intergovernmental programs and conventions requires deliberate, painstaking consensus. But on the other hand, technology is moving at light speed. Just look at the explosion of artificial intelligence and neurotechnologies. The ultimate challenge? Ensuring our diplomatic rulebooks don't become totally obsolete before the ink even dries.
Part 4. The machinery of implementation. So how does a massive theoretical mandate like this actually get executed in the real world? The answer lies in surprisingly rigid economic and regulatory frameworks.
These 4 distinct steps reveal the grounded bureaucratic reality of the role. Because, you can have all the intellectual vision in the world, but it still has to translate into these phased work plans. It starts with cataloging gaps, moves to scoping and drafting, and then has to survive grueling formal panel reviews before finally reaching member states. This is the bureaucratic engine room where high-level policy meets harsh reality.
Now, this is where the mandate takes an unexpected but completely logical turn. The strategy explicitly crosses over with international civil aviation and ICAO policies. You might be wondering, why is a science directorate suddenly talking about airplanes? Well, because you literally can't have a truly global science network without the physical and economic infrastructure to connect it. Air transport is treated as a core enabler of sharing research, moving resources, and connecting experts worldwide.
Intellectual leadership ultimately relies on real-world logistics. Tangible cost savings, efficient airports, and optimized airlines are what actually allow developing states to participate in global science. The operational reality of a runway is just as important as the theoretical physics happening in a lab, because regulatory coherence in transport directly impacts the economic efficiency of scientific cooperation.
Part 5. Managing Risks and Stakeholders. Executing this massive machinery requires navigating a minefield of operational risks and highly complex global actors.
The stakeholder landscape here is a serious high-stakes balancing act. The Assistant Director General isn't just dealing with scientists in white coats. They have to negotiate with finance ministries, heavy-hitting airline associations, and regional economic communities. They're constantly balancing the vulnerability of nascent national institutions with the demands of massive, highly liberalized markets.
But how do we actually measure success in an environment this incredibly vast? It's a crucial question. Without a standardized way to track the impact of these phased work plans, the entire international system risks fragmenting into inconsistent, contradictory regulatory practices. Success isn't just publishing a 50-page document and calling it a day. It requires hard, key performance indicators. Are deliverables on time? Are states actually participating in consultations? Are regulatory disputes measurably dropping? This data is rigorously tracked and reported back to bodies like the Air Transport Committee to prove that the scientific mandate is actually translating into real global efficiency.
Which brings us to Part 6, the long-term global impact. Let's zoom back out for a second. What's the ultimate goal of all this meticulous monitoring, evaluation, and stakeholder management? It all ties back to core equity. Utilizing global initiatives like No Country Left Behind ensures that the benefits of stronger economic regulation and infrastructure planning extend equitably to everyone. A small island economy absolutely must have the exact same access to safe, efficient, and well-regulated frameworks as a massive, developed nation.
And this vision is meticulously mapped out over time. There are immediate goals for the current triennium, which is just the organization's 3-year budget cycle. Then there are medium-term goals stretching out to 2029 and long-term outlooks focusing on sustainable global connectivity. By anticipating these future pressures, the sciences sector ensures that these global frameworks provide predictable, stable investment conditions for the entire globe.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. As technology races forward and our global systems become more and more intertwined, can our international institutional frameworks truly keep pace? Thank you for joining this explainer, and keep questioning how our world connects.